Good morning. Welcome to the Health and Wellness Program. You're listening to Marie Gifkins. So our feet take us through life, don't they? And we should have two of them, and you're very unlucky if you don't. But we quite often ignore our feet unless we start having problems. And then it's like, oh my gosh, then you realise how much you can't rest your feet. Because we need them to go to the toilet and make a cup of tea. Hey, and that's the basics in life. If we can't do that, things are dire straits, aren't they? And so I specialise in the feet, and I have been for 26 years. And you name it, I've probably seen it. There's not very often somebody can surprise me. And if you're really, really special and got really, really special feet, then I will actually take a photo too, because I do teach this therapy as well. So it's called foot joint mobilization. So there's a mouthful for you, but it is working on the bone structure of the feet, realigning them, bringing them back into a more correct position. So for an example, if we have flat feet, the arches have collapsed, and then we're walking around, and it could be one foot or it could be both feet are collapsed, and then after a while the knees aren't quite meeting in the right place, and then the hips and the lower back. Quite often you get lower back pain with flat feet, and it just has that kind of dominoes effect all the way through from the feet. And then if you get to come and see someone like myself, then I start bringing the arch back up bit by bit by bit. Can't do it in one treatment, of course. It's taken you a few years to get them down, so it's going to take a little bit of time to get them back up. And of course it's the muscles that hold the bones in place. So you could sort of say I'm like a chiropractor. You know how a chiropractor will work on your spine. I just work on all the bones of the feet. So it's bringing them back into that correct alignment. And so the arch starts to come back up, and then the knees start to align, and the hips, and then the muscles in the back start to relax, and the vertebrae go back in by themselves. So I don't have to manipulate the back or the neck. The body knows how to heal itself, given the right chance. And of course, it's pretty magical when you know that your back is aligning itself. Nobody's forcing it into place, no one's encouraging it to go into place. It actually starts to repair itself. And then because the feet are correct, then it's less likely for the back to go back out. Unless you're not like lifting and twisting at the same time, and you might throw your back out. But if the feet are still in line, then the muscles will actually relax. Sometimes it can take 3 days for the muscles to relax again, and then the vertebrae move by themselves back into alignment again. So it might be a new way of looking at back pain for you and why our back goes out. But I've been doing this for 26 years, and I've seen it time and time again, and it never ceases to amaze me how capable the body is in repairing itself. And it stays. So I get about 95% success with all, not just the foot issues, but the whole structure of the body issues. So I get about 95% success. So you've got to be really unlucky for it not to work for you. Occasionally it does not happen, and I'll try different sort of things just in case I've missed something. But sometimes I just can't fix somebody for whatever reason, but it's not very often. So, if you're wanting to get my phone number again and my name, I'll just run it past you again. So it's Marie Gifkins that you're listening to. And my phone number is 0272 495090. So I have a clinic in Hastings and Waipakarau. In Hastings, I'm here Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. And in Waipakarau, Monday and Friday. And so back to the feet, there's 28 bones in the feet, so it doesn't take much for something to go out of alignment. But you could even have twisted toes, or a bunion, or a heel spur, or a plantar fasciitis. That's not a very nice one. That's a long, hard word to say too. And with the plantar fasciitis, that's quite often where the arch is actually starting to drop, and the fascia that attaches underneath the foot, and it runs from that big heel along to the toes, it's kind of like a tendon ligament substance where it should have a bit of stretch with it. It should have a bit of elasticity. And if it stretches, it's okay. And it stretches a bit more, it's starting to not be happy. And then your feet just carry on getting flatter and flatter. And then it just might get to the point where, no, I'm not stretching anymore. I can't do this. I don't like this. And then that sets up that inflammation where it joins onto the bone. And every step you take is painful. And when you put your feet up, there's no pain. It feels fine and you think, oh, it might have gone away. And then you put your feet down on the floor and you get up to do anything and away the pain goes again. And some people feel different pains in different times of the day. Some people notice it when they get up in the morning and they're trying to walk and they're hobbling, and it can take a minute to 5 minutes to loosen up. I have heard of a few people where they actually have to crawl first thing in the morning and until they can get back on their feet. So that's pretty severe. And then there's other people, as the day goes on, then the pain starts to come in. And they just can't ignore it. It's not very nice. And if you have that, I'm the lady for you. So as I said, I get 95% success. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen. So the longest I ever work on anyone with severe conditions in the feet is twice a week for 8 weeks. And then I don't see you for years. Once it's all corrected, that's it. You don't have to come in for maintenance. You're not coming in once a fortnight, once a month, or anything like that. Quite often I don't see these customers again for years. And it's usually not coming in for what their original problem was. They actually come for something else. So how cool is that? So I'm quite happy to give people all this good news. So that's the longest I work on anyone, is twice a week for 8 weeks. So sometimes, or quite often, because I'm so experienced in it, 26 years, I can actually get these things done a lot quicker than, 15 years ago. So quite often I can get it done in 6 weeks or 4 weeks. So it just depends on what you've got going on in the feet and how well they're responding. And let's give you an example. I'll give you the hardest person that I've had to treat in 26 years. I'll give you this case study. It's always nice to hear a case study. And you'll probably go, oh yeah, I'm not as bad as that person. So this was when I was living up in Tikawata area. And so quite a few years ago, probably about 20 years ago, 22 years ago, and a gentleman had heard about me, and he was about 60. He was forced to retire at about 55. He had been a truck driver, so working with his feet, and they were sort of stable, not moving a lot, and then they jump out of the truck. So you get the idea. And so when I saw him, I heard his story and looked at his feet, and there was no bones moving in his feet. Like I said, there's 28 bones in the feet, and you should have movement. You should be able to wriggle your toes, twist them around, and have some kind of movement in the ankle as well, bringing them up and down and flexing them a little bit sideways and being able to twist them and put them in different shapes or different positions. And he couldn't move anything on his feet. Nothing would move. And then I realised how bad his feet were. They were all fused together. The bones had all calcified together. Now this had happened naturally. It hadn't been from an operation or accidents or anything. Just over the years of keeping the feet still, not having a lot of movement, hour after hour after hour, these bones had started to fuse naturally. And well, he didn't go and see anyone when they started to get a little bit bad. He just persevered and carried on until it got to the point where he couldn't move, and then he couldn't walk properly. He had to just shuffle, and then he couldn't bend down. He couldn't get on the floor and get up again. And then he realised he had a major problem. And as I said, he was forced to retire at about 55 because he couldn't move any of the bones in his feet. And So I had known the therapy about 2 years, I think. And when he explained everything to me and I looked at them and touched his feet and realised how bad they were, I said to him, I don't think there's anything I can do for you. These are the worst I've ever seen. Da, 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 da. But I had only known the therapy for a couple of years. And he just looked at me and he said, look, I've tried this, that, the other thing, surgery. Nobody can do anything for me. This makes the most sense. Can you at least try? And I said, yeah, sure, if you're prepared to come and do the travelling, because he was an hour away from where I was. If you're prepared to do the travelling twice a week, I'm prepared to work on you. Yep, by all means. You know, and I believe in miracles, so, you know, you never know. There could be divine intervention. And so he came twice a week. His wife drove him there, so there was quite a bit of dedication, wasn't there? And we got into about the third week, so twice a week for the third week, so that's about 6th treatment. There was a click, and we realised that something good had happened. And then from then on, he was away. So in that third week, he was able, because his life was lazy boy chair into the car, back to the lazy boy chair. That was his life. That was it. He couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't walk around the block. And so by the end of the third week, he was starting to walk down to the letterbox, pick up the mail, and come back again. So that was pretty cool. And then we started to get more clicks, and we started to get more movement in the feet. I tell you, it was quite exciting to see this reverse process going on. You know, we're not taught, we're not told that things can reverse. And unless you're a therapist, nobody mentions it. You know, the doctors don't tell you can reverse things. You know, they just say, oh, well, this is your lot, you know, you're getting older, or you've got to accept this, you know, but some people will, you know, look for answers and will try. And, you know, you don't know unless you try. And so by the end of the 4th week, he was starting to walk halfway around the block. He'd walk halfway and then come back again, or maybe not quite halfway, but he started to walk more and more. And then he realised he could get down on the floor and start playing with the grandchildren and get up again. And so it was very exciting working with him. And then we got to about the 7th week, and he comes in and he goes, guess where I've been in the weekend? I said, I don't know. He says, been to my batch at the beach, and I could walk on sand. And he hadn't been able to walk on the sand for years, and that is the hardest place to walk when we have trouble with our feet. So the smile on his face was just incredible. He got back things that he never thought he'd be able to have again. And so we got to the end of the 8 weeks. Now, I hadn't actually fixed everything in that 8-week span because the feet were so bad. But I said to him, look, the healing is still going to carry on for another probably 6 weeks. So the more you walk, the more it's going to unravel and start breaking down more of that calcification. It'll break down more and more. Come back and see me in 3 months, and we'll do another 4 weeks of treatment and just push you a little bit further. But just have a break at the moment. The feet will still carry on healing, and we'll go from there. And that's the amazing thing with the foot joint mobilization, is once we've got that momentum going and things are starting to reverse itself, even when you finish the treatment, it's still going to carry on for a bit longer. So it's quite exciting to see. So because of that gentleman and what I saw happening with him and the reversal of things, I actually never turn anybody away. I will say, give me 6 treatments and let's see what we can get. And if nothing's happened in 6 treatments, okay, we can go, it's not for you. But I have seen so many things reverse, so many things that seem like a miracle, that I will just say to people, look, give me 6 treatments and let's see what can happen. How fair is that? It's not like waiting for 3 months, you know. It's like 6 treatments. That's not long to wait at all. And maybe I haven't fixed everything, but we'll get an idea whether things are starting to shift. And as I said, sometimes it just takes to takes a little bit of time to get that momentum. It's like going uphill. It just takes a bigger effort to get uphill than coming downhill. And for another example, how about another case study? A lady who had contracted a virus, a Gillian syndrome virus, and that's a very nasty one. You end up paralyzed, you can't move, you're in hospital, and she had been in hospital about 5 months, and she was only about 45. She still had a couple of young teenage children at home, and within 24 hours she was just like zonked, paralyzed, nothing, couldn't move anything. Doctors told her she'd never be able to walk again, she'll be in a wheelchair, and that's not what you want to hear at that age. You should still have a lot of living to do. And I saw her 2 years after she'd contracted this, and when I saw her, she had braces on her legs and she had crutches, and she was able to shuffle. She was so determined to prove the doctors wrong that she worked really hard at the physio, and they had managed to get her onto crutches and with braces for her legs. But she still couldn't stand at the kitchen bench for even half an hour to cook for her meal, for the family. She couldn't have a shower by herself. There were still a lot of things. She'd get tired very easily. Her bowels weren't working very well. They might work once in a week. So a lot of cramp going on in her legs and muscles. So there was still a lot of issues going on for her. And she had heard about me. I can't remember how she had heard about me, but she'd heard about me, and she made an appointment, and she came and saw me, and I heard her story, and I hadn't had anyone with that at that stage. And so I had to do a bit of research on it, and I said to her, actually, I want to do some iridology. I want to have a look in your eyes first, because with this condition, you lose a lot of calcium and magnesium, and I'm going to work, it's kind of like a manipulation on your feet. If they're not strong, I don't want to go breaking any bones. I haven't broken any bones, and I don't want to, and I don't intend to, so I need to check things out first, and just see how the person's body is. She goes, yeah, I understand that, that's fine. So I did the iridology. If you don't know what that is, that's looking into the iris and the eye of the person, and I'm able to see where their body strengths and weaknesses are. And I just looked in her eyes and I said, I'm not touching your bones. They could break. I said, look, we need to work out something, a system for you, or give you a guideline of what to do first for 6 weeks. You go away for about 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and I'll put you on a program of good calcium, magnesium, protein drinks, Cascara Sagrada for her bowels. I said, you need to get your body a lot stronger before I start working on it. And so off she went with a plan, and saw her about 2 months later, and she was much stronger, and she was able to, the cramping had gone away, the bowels were working every day, she had more energy, she was feeling better, she was sleeping better. So a lot of good things were happening just with that nutritional, getting all of that nutrition back into her. So that was really good, and I had a look in her eyes, and I said, yeah, I'll still go gentle, but I'm a lot happier with you. It doesn't feel like you're going to just fall apart the minute I touch you. And so I spread it out a bit longer, and I started working on her. Now, because she'd been in bed and paralysed and nothing working for so long, her feet had actually splayed out. Her whole feet had splayed out like flat feet, extremely bad flat feet, but her toes had curled under. All her toes had curled, and yet there was this flat effect on the feet as well. And so that was giving her a lot of trouble with the curled toes, trying to put them into shoes. It took quite an effort to get her feet into shoes. So when she'd come in, it's easy to take her feet out of shoes, but to put them back in after the treatment was quite tricky when the toes were wanting to naturally curl. And so I started working on her, and we had 3 steps that she had to get up to get into my clinic then, and with crutches. So I'd have to help her up the steps, and she could manage it, but we had to be a bit careful. And so I started working on her, and within 4 weeks she was managing to get her feet into her shoes within 5 minutes instead of 10 minutes. The toes had started to relax a little bit more, and it wasn't so hard getting her feet into her shoes, and she was able to actually have a shower by herself. So she was starting to feel stronger in her whole body, and she was able to manage the steps without me. So she was getting better and better, and by about the 5th week she was down on one crutch. She didn't have her braces anymore, and she was back onto one crutch, and she said that she was only using the crutches mainly outside when she was walking on uneven surfaces. When she was at home in her own surroundings, she wasn't even using crutches. So she was making progress real fast. It was so cool working with her because she was so determined to show those doctors what she was capable of. And she was younger too, which was on her side. And we got towards the end of the treatments, and I remember she came in again and she goes, I dropped the soap in the shower the other day. And I was looking at her, and I just said, and she goes, I was able to bend down and pick it up. And we take things for granted. We so take things for granted. And it just made me go, wow, that is so cool. And she was another tricky one where she was quite severe. So I worked on her for a period of time. It would have been the equivalent of like 8 weeks. And then the ankles were still a little bit stuck, even though the arches are coming back up. The toes were nice and straight. And I said to her, I think you just need to have 3 months off and then come back and see me for another 4 weeks. And we'll just tidy whatever's left then. She goes, okay. Off she went, came back. It was probably about 4 months later. And she was even able to get back into the workforce. Part-time, but she was managing a chocolate shop. So she was happy. And she was able to cook for the family, have a shower by herself, no crutches, no braces. And so she started to get back onto her life and actually do all the things that we all take for granted. So that was wonderful working with her. So I've seen, like I said, I've seen lots of wonderful things happen in my journey of my career. And so if you are struggling, by all means, just give me a ring and let's have a chat about it. Whether they're bunions or they're twisted toes, you've twisted your ankles, you've got swelling in them, they're not feeling good, they're burning, they're itching. There's all sorts of things I've seen. So if you'd like to give me a ring, my phone number is 0272 495090, and you've been listening to Marie Gifkins. Thank you.